Now, just so I'm clear, Stronger Advice is your new book, right?
Strong Advice, yeah.
Strong Advice, yeah. Okay, I got Stronger
Advice, yeah,
here.
Right. No, just Strong.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you didn't have a new book in the making that I wasn't aware of yet. So
I might, but nobody knows about that.
Okay, good. So yeah, we'll just play it by ear, man. I know you're good at talking. I've watched a few of your interviews now. Was man, I'm so happy to see you on Ruben, and
thanks,
happy
man.
to see Shapiro picking you up. I'm a lefty, man. I'm a former, almost a 10-time Green Party candidate here in Ontario.
Okay.
Ontario, I don't know if you know where I'm at, but I'm across the lake from Toronto, right near Niagara Falls. I'm in a town called St. Catharines. We're right on the south shore of Lake Ontario. I got red-pilled. I don't know how it happened, man, but I'm just so I'm surprised that it was so painful coming off my beliefs. You know, I was pro-choice. I was pro-capital punishment, and I've maybe not reversed my opinion on everything, but this.
When did that all happen?
I think it happened slowly, but I think Peterson triggered it with seeing how the left was reacting to him, and these trans activists.
Do you want to do this as part of the podcast, or is this?
Yeah. You know what? We probably should. Good ideas.
I'm just wondering. It sounds like an interesting conversation.
Yeah. All right, let's get rolling here. And we are rolling there. Live with Zuby. Brother, thank you for the time, man. We are live now on Facebook, so if you've got...
Is there a way I can share it?
Yeah, you can see it on Jim Fannon, my personal page. Let me
see if I can share it on mine, then I will.
All right, beautiful. Appreciate it. And then back to Skype. Where am I? Yeah, I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to make sure that we're rolling here. And that's all I need is a picture of you, so that's good.
Man, so where on Facebook do I go to?
Yeah, just check Jim Fannon. It should be maybe a link on the Jim Fannon show too, but at Jim Fannon should come up. Facebook.com/Jim Fannon. You should see it there.
Okay.
It should be public too, so I don't think we have to be connected for you to see it. I'm a fan of your page though, and I subscribed today to the YouTube channel, put myself on notifications, waiting for some new stuff to come out.
Nice one, man. Thank you.
Are you seeing it now?
I see the announcement on your main page. Let me just check.
All right.
Okay, cool. I will. Let's see if I can share this here.
Forgot I had the tape over my camera. I'm that afraid of Big Brother. And I don't even sit naked in front of my computer often. I heard Gavin McInnes the other day on his podcast. He's like, he was talking about the effects of caffeine on his sexual parts, and he was sitting naked while he was recording the show, and I'm on my walk, and I'm walking down the street in the North End over here, and I'm just killing myself laughing. I can't even believe he's talking about this.
Oh wow.
Anyway,
all right, I'm going to share it on my page and also my personal profile. Cool, so I'm sure
I appreciate it.
I'm sure a couple of Zuby fans who are milling around will tune
in.
Well,
I already getting all kinds of action on the last tweet that you sent out, so I appreciate that. I know you were a small guy not even that long ago, but it's weird how this social media can make you internet famous almost immediately. Eh? So I really have been watching your growth. It's been really cool. So
when did you start following me?
Good question. I can't remember whose show it was that you got exposure on, or how. Maybe it was the trans lift or deadlift.
Okay, yeah, it was for a lot of people.
It hasn't been a long time. So, anyway, Zuby is my guest. Follow him at Zuby Music on Twitter. Firstly, guy's a stud. Look at him. You can't see him now, but you'll see it later. Fiercely handsome, Oxford educated, a British rapper, podcast host of the program Real Talk with Zuby. He's an author, motivational fitness and training coach, and self-declared free thinker, love that, and inspiration for millions. His new book, Strong Advice, and album, Perseverance, The Best of Zuby, are available now and everywhere. So welcome, Zuby, to the show, man. First, I just want to say thank you for the time. I know you've got a lot of pub lately. We were just talking about, how, social media can make you an internet star almost overnight. I know we can talk about how that happened. But yeah, if you could, I know you've probably done this a few times, but just for my listeners and people that are watching the show now, try to go back to the beginning, a little bit about yourself, how you got to where you are, just a good, solid primer in the background of who Zuby is.
Yeah, no problem at all, man. So I'm Zuby. I'm a full-time independent professional rapper. I have achieved quite a lot completely independently, including selling over 25,000 albums around the UK. I've performed in 8 different countries. Had my videos viewed online over 5 million times, got over 120,000 followers across social media, and opened up for a few well-known artists, including Tech9, Akala, The Far Side. And I also run a podcast called Real Talk with Zuby, which comes out every Friday. I talk to a whole bunch of interesting guests on there. Had guys like Gad Sad, Dave Rubin, lots of other well-known people on there, and lots more to come. And I've also recently become an author after releasing my first book, which is a fitness ebook called Strong Advice, Zuby's Guide to Fitness for Everybody. That just came out in May. So yeah, got a whole bunch of strings in the bow. I also do some public speaking, some coaching, whole bunch of stuff, man. I'm trying to do everything.
Cool, man. So tell us about how you got started and your claim to fame here as far as the early days. I know we'll talk about your deadlift record coming up, but how has this progressed, how slowly, and maybe some tips on others that are, considering dipping their toe in the podcast pool or the ebook pool or what have you?
Yeah. Okay, well, the podcast and ebook, those are brand new for 2019. I just started my podcast in mid-January. I've done over 40 episodes so far. That's actually going to be there's a local radio station here where I live in Southampton, UK, that's actually picking it up, and it's going to start broadcasting on their station in a couple weeks' time,
Nice.
which is really cool. So it'll go out on radio as well.
Cool. Yeah.
The book also, that was a 1-month turnaround. So those two things
Really?
were not things that I wrote the whole book in about 2 weeks. Wow. So I was not necessarily planning on becoming a podcaster podcasting I'd been thinking about for a while, so I knew that was coming. The book, though, that came more on a whim, and I was like, you know what, why don't I do this? I sat down, blocked out a week, and just sat down and did it. In terms of everything else, though, going back to the core of what I do, of course, being a rapper, being a musician. So I studied computer science at Oxford University. And when I was there in my very first year, I started rapping just for fun. I actually got stuck in an airport one time when I was traveling, and I had a 24-hour layover in Paris, and I didn't have much to do. I just had my MP3 player with me, a pen and some paper, and I just started writing down some rhymes. I've been a hip-hop fan since my teenage years, so I guess I'd rapped before, but always rapping other people's stuff. This was my very first time ever putting pen to paper and writing my own stuff, and I picked it up fairly quickly. Fast forwarding a little bit, when I was in my second year of university, after I'd been rapping for about 9 or 10 months, I actually released my very first album. So I put out my first album when I was in university. It was called Commercial Underground, and that had a song on there called Step Into Me, which was my very first single and my first music video, which got a lot of love. They played it on the BBC radio in Oxford. BBC Introducing supported it. The music video got played on national TV. The video was shot in the university as well, so it was a little bit different. I think it was probably the first rap video shot at Oxford University.
Oh, okay.
So so it was a little bit different. It was kind of my USP. It was like, okay, this guy's in Oxford, and also he's rapping. That's a little bit different. So I finished university. I got my degree. I did 1 year. I did my music full time, and then I actually moved to London to go and work in the corporate world. So I was a consultant. I worked for a management consultancy company for several years. For 3 years in total. And then in late 2011, wow, that's a while ago now, I took the plunge, I jumped out, and I went to doing my music full time and just hit the streets and started grinding, really, man. Just started putting out my albums, putting out my CDs, just traveling all over the country and selling them, doing gigs in different places, organizing my own tours. A lot of that stuff, I still do to this day. I mean, I'm still independent. So everything I've done, everything I've established so far, a lot of times people think I've got some manager or agency or some publicity behind me or anything, but no, it's all genuinely been done off my own back. I design my own merchandise for the most part. I design my own album covers. I do most of the stuff. Like, I'm a true DIY artist, with the exception of making beats. I'm not a producer. I work with different people on the beats, but pretty much everything else, down to my websites, like,
Really?
I built and created all that stuff myself.
Self-made. That's awesome. And tell us about your experience. You certainly don't come off as a victim in this victim culture of the left. Everyone's a victim. Intersectionality. I mean, if you're black, and then you can go all the way down the list. Tell us about your experience, and you're growing up. I know you were raised in. You spent a decade in Saudi Arabia. You were born there. I think.
I wasn't born there. I was born in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about your experience, though, as from your perspective.
Yeah, no problem at all, man. So my family background, my parents are originally from Nigeria, but I was born in the UK along with my siblings. And we moved to Saudi Arabia when I was a baby. So I went to preschool there. I went to school there. It was like an international school / American school. So that's why my accent to this date sounds like the way it does now. I've been in the UK on and off for 20 years, but my accent
Canadian
is just...
to me, brother.
I sound Canadian. Yeah, well... Yeah, that's the one, because I think, I think a lot of people hear like a combination of American and English. So
okay, yeah, well, that would work out to be Canadian almost,
yeah,
right?
A lot of people think that it's Canadian, or, it doesn't matter where people are from. Like, yeah, everyone thinks it's American or Canadian. Yeah, but nice. So I grew up in Saudi Arabia for the most part. I did go to boarding school in the UK from a pretty young age, from the age of about 11. So between 11 and all my time throughout university, I was back and forth between the two countries all the time. And so, so I was there and then moved to the UK permanently about 10 years ago. So I've lived in a few different cities here. I'm now based in Southampton. Before that, I was in Bournemouth. And before that, I was in London. Before that, I was in Bristol. So I'm very well traveled. I've been to like 32 different countries, performed in 8 of them, and got a whole lot more to do.
Nice. I want to touch on some of the guests that you've had on, and your channel is starting to grow well. It's tough getting it to take, eh? I mean, unless you get something to go viral like you did in, what was it, February, with the transgender lifting. We'll talk about that. But, I saw Shapiro commenting on you. I know you were on Ruben's show. I think he's been on your show as well. Haven't Gad said, I know he calls himself the sexiest man alive, and I got to give him Lebanese love all over that, man. I just love that self-deprecation, and how he talks about what a great soccer star, football star he is. And I know you've had Megan Murphy on. I had Megan Murphy on. Still one of my all-time most listened to shows or viewed shows. Megan Murphy at that time was, and still has carried her prominence over. Ashley St. Clair, here we have a young, independent thinker, just happens to be a conservative and a Trump supporter who's just getting murdered on social media out there. You know what I mean?
She's blown up though. She's gained 50,000 followers since I featured her on the show. So
and the things they say about her, it's just incredible. And you got to be careful what you wish for, because at one time, I'm a former terrestrial radio guy. I had a couple different shows, and you come out to the social media, and it's a different world because the interaction, right? And you really got to have thick skin. And I'm a student at Gary V's a little bit, and I think I heard you say, or even Crowder said the other day on his close for Louder with Crowder on Thursday night, it's just do something. He struggles with mental health issues. Just get out of bed and just do it, man. And so I know you've had some help along the way as far as some viral help on social media. Had some great guests, but what and I heard Tim Poole say the other day, oh, so you want to be a YouTube star, eh? Well, I've been working for 2 years doing 7 videos a day on 3 channels and 16 hours a day. So you want to be a YouTube star? Here's how you do it. So
man, in anything, bro. I mean, I released my first album in 2006. So to anybody who thinks like Zuby has just showed up in 2019, like, no, there's a whole catalog for you, which you can go and discover. I mean, if you look at all my social media accounts, all of them are more than 10 years old. The newest one is like 8 years old. The
Right.
oldest one is 15 years old. I've been on Facebook for 15 years.
Wow.
So yeah, yeah. So you can go on Twitter. Like I joined in 2009. So a lot of people have discovered me. Not just this year. I mean, I gained a lot of followers last year as well, just because I started putting more of myself out there, putting more of my thoughts, my observations about the world, and just things that go on in my mind. I started putting that out there more rather than kind of siloing off my personality and only putting out my music and my art. I decided to just become a bit more open with it because it seemed like the world needs more rational voices. And I was like, okay, I talk about all this stuff in private with people, with my parents, with my siblings, my family, my friends. So why don't I start putting out some of these ideas or opinions on Twitter primarily? Like my other ones, I don't know, I don't put out too much on there. I just think Twitter is a good platform for it because I can write, I can just talk, I can think out loud in short bursts. I don't need to put up a photo or worry about getting crushed by the Facebook algorithm. And it's a lot faster than YouTube too. So I found that that's just been a great platform for me. And it's my biggest platform. And, the other ones are sizable. But I just think that Twitter, in terms of a social network, for all its flaws and for all its annoyances, I do think it's the best social network out there.
And so tell us about is this what put you over the edge with this video you took at the gym, which was absolutely hilarious, brother. Like, I mean, that's what I love most about you is I love your heart most, because I think, when you were saying you put a little bit more of yourself out there, I'm saying in my mind, are you just being honest and open as before where you couched? I mean, you can't. I see you talking about abortion. You're talking about some really heavy subjects out there.
Yeah, man.
And lots of that stuff people tend to keep to themselves because they don't want the backlash.
Yeah, but do you know what it is that made me become more outspoken is the fact that I realized that people who held very opposing views, values, beliefs, and ideas to me, many of which I think are destructive, they are very outspoken. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, well, someone needs to counter some of this narrative. I mean, you touched on before we were really rolling, you talked about Jordan Peterson. You've already mentioned people like Gad Saad, Dave Rubin, people who are known for being public figures who speak out and speak honestly and have conversations about some of the stuff going on in society. And that's important because you've got people who are pushing some crazy ideas, and all it takes for crazy ideas to completely infiltrate and perhaps even dominate society in the long term is for people not to say anything. And most people don't want to say anything.
The moderate middle is silent for the most part.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the majority of people. That's the thing. So you can hear this fringe and that fringe,
the
and
extremes.
that fringe and that fringe. They tend to be, people who are more radical tend to be more outspoken.
Right.
So they'll be there pushing their crazy ideas, and that's fine. They've got the freedom of speech to do that. I'm not trying to deplatform or shut anybody down.
Right. But
if someone is saying this on that side, it's like, okay, well, what about this side? Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, that other side, I wasn't hearing. There were a couple of voices out there, but I was like, okay, I need to start putting some of my thoughts out there. And one thing that's really interesting is I feel like I guess everyone thinks that their position and their opinions make sense, but like, so this seems like almost like a moot point, but I do genuinely feel like on most things I have an opinion on, my opinion is very like reasonable and well thought out and backed by logical thought and research and thinking and stuff. It's
science?
Not just like something I heard from some. Science where science is relevant. Mm-hmm. But there's some places where not everything is scientific. Some stuff is just like, okay, just an idea or a philosophy, morality, or a way of viewing the world, or morality or something. Yeah, some of those things are hard to. Science is very useful and science is very valuable, but science doesn't answer everything. Science doesn't tell you how to run a country or how to run a family or how to run yourself, right?
Or
science
have faith.
Doesn't.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, or what's the point of us being here? Like science can't answer that. It can tell me how my food digests and why I'm stuck to the ground when and why when I jump I fall back down. Right? It can explain all that, but it can't tell me anything on a different plane.
Right.
Which is where I'm a Christian myself, and I'm very open and honest about that. I'm a believer in God, but I think whether or not people believe in God or any traditional religion, it it seems almost inevitable that all human beings search for meaning. And I think once you're really searching for that, most people understand that science itself doesn't have all the answers.
Right.
Science doesn't explain the whole human condition, if you want to call it that,
right,
or your own personal situation. That's not really what it's for. So what I find is, even amongst people who don't believe in, people who are atheists or even anti-theists or who don't follow any specific religion, they still inevitably crave some kind of higher purpose or meaning or ideology or some kind of explanation. Otherwise it is just like, okay, we're just animals on a big spinning rock hurtling through space, like spinning around a giant star. And that's okay. But it's like, all right, so how do we treat each other? How do we treat ourselves? What's the point? Like we've got between 70 and 100 years. Like, what do we do with them?
Yeah.
Like, are we meant to, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that it doesn't answer. And I think that, however people find an answer to that, as long as it's not destructive and harmful to other people, I'm cool with. Like, I don't care about, I'm not someone who tries to like push my beliefs on anything on other people. If someone wants to know my opinion or my view, I'm very happy to explain it. If they disagree with me and they want to have that discussion or debate, I'm cool with that. I like talking to people of all different belief systems and ideas. As long as people are cool and respectful, then I'll talk to anybody. I don't like being stuck in an echo chamber. I like to understand the world around me. I want to know how other people tick. If there's something that I believe and someone else has like the polar opposite opinion, my thing isn't like, oh, I want to like escape from that person, or like it's actually like, oh, okay, that's a discussion I want to have.
Yeah.
Because I think most people do have good intentions, right? And most people's beliefs, I think a lot of people's beliefs kind of come from other people and they just adopt them and they don't really think about them. And when that happens, that's even more important to have those discussions, because there are so many people. Like, people say, especially online, people are like, oh, don't bother discussing or debating with people online and you can't change it. I'm like, dude, I've changed a lot of people's minds just on Twitter. And I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Like, I've changed a
so
lot
many
of
people
people's
say,
minds.
you're never going to change anybody's
name. No, I get DMs from people who are like, yeah, man, like I just, read that thread you were saying or followed this discussion you were having, and you've made me like think about that whole issue differently.
That's
because
gratifying,
I've never,
eh?
Yeah, because there's I've just never thought of it that way. And I think that's what it is. A lot of people don't think about things thoroughly. Like with myself personally, anything I have a strong opinion on, I only have a strong opinion on it because I've really, really thought about it from different angles and listened to both sides or different sides of the argument and approached it in different ways. And as a result, I've now come to this position, which can still potentially change. You know what I mean?
Sure,
like nothing is necessarily completely set in stone 100%. But there are a couple of big issues which I have changed my mind on over the years. And that's been from having these discussions and hearing the different arguments and kind of processing that myself. But there's, as opinionated as I am, there's most things I don't have a strong opinion on.
Right.
There's most things I don't know. If someone asks me about, I don't know, the Israeli-Palestine conflict, I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion. I've listened to both sides. Both sides seem to have fair points and fair grievances, but I don't know enough about the history and all the ins and outs, and that's like a whole field of study. So I'm like, I'm not gonna go on Twitter or Facebook or whatever and put out some big spiel because I'll end up looking stupid because there'll be thousands of people who understand it better than I do.
Sure.
Whereas on other issues, it's like, okay, cool, I can put this out there and I can argue, I can argue my position, or I can explain how I've come to this conclusion. Whether or not people agree, that's fine. But this is my own thought.
No, I appreciate your thoughts on that, and your Christianity. I'm Christian. I was raised a Christian. I remember when I was old enough, but young enough still, to make up my mind and say, you know what, I'm hedging my bets, dude. If I get up there and all it took was for me to believe, and I find out that I got to go downstairs instead of upstairs because I didn't believe, the least I can do is while I'm on this filthy planet is believe. Okay, no problem. So it was all self-preservation, I'm telling you. And the other, don't pray or read the Bible as much as I should. I'm really involved at my church because I call it Rock and Roll Pretty Church. It's like they've got some really good resources. It's like the first half is like a rock and roll show. I can see how that moves people. It's a Pentecostal, I think. So, but I grew up Catholic. I was a confirmed Catholic, and I struggle with it all day. And like I said, I don't pray as much as I should. I pray when I'm down on my knees, when I'm broken, when there's nothing left. I turn to God, right? And I've just only learned to say thank you for the blessings, not where are you. Months ago, I remember telling my men's group, I prayed the other day. I was like, God, if you're there. Oh, what do you mean, God, if you're there? Like, I mean, that's not a faithful man. You know what I mean? So I really struggle with it. But it's been there my whole life, and some of it was conscious and some of it wasn't. But I appreciate your thoughts on godlessness. I mean, maybe it's because my faith is strengthened that I'm a little bit more out there on the front lines being attacked for my belief. There's a couple arguments. One is it's not a baby until it comes out of the womb. We can't even discuss that after. It's just a clump of cells. I can't have an educated debate with you. And the other thing is, there's no God. You believe in some silly man in the sky. Okay, well, you know what? If you're going to crush on me for that. But I appreciate your position, your observations on how this godlessness, Nietzsche said we killed, God is dead. Well, I know that he wasn't celebrating that when he said God is dead. He was lamenting it, and he was worried about the foundations of Western civilization being cut out from underneath us because the bedrock was Christianity and God. And the other thing, and I know you probably, this isn't the fatherlessness in the States. These are two things where I think have spectacularly impacted society today, especially in the States. Fatherlessness. I love this program Robert Bly put out. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called A Gathering of Men, and he really talks about the lack of elders that men have today. So what? Now they're mentored by gangs. So I just appreciate your thoughts on both godlessness and fatherlessness as we move away from what it seems like a more religious society and one that has real strong role models in the house.
That's a That's a lot right there, man. That's heavy.
Pay me the big bucks.
Yeah, no, that's heavy, man. Okay, so I'll start with I guess tackling both of them to begin with. I think that what's weird is in the modern Western world, obviously we live in a very, very fairly hyper liberal society now. Certainly in the Anglosphere. So UK, Canada, Australia, Western Europe, UK. And that's got some good things, in terms of like my general views. I'm very libertarian minded.
Okay.
In that I don't think people should. I don't like the idea of forcing people to do stuff. Really, beyond not harming each other and not taking each other's stuff and not killing each other. I'm generally of the belief. I'm generally nervous about putting restrictions from a top-down perspective on what people can and cannot do. Not because I think that people should do everything, like very, very, very far from it. Like I'm pretty socially conservative. I don't even drink. I've never smoked. I've never taken drugs, anything like that. I don't even have any tattoos or anything like that. It's just not for me. But at the same time, if somebody wants to do those things, provided they're doing it on their own volition and they're not harming other people in the process and they're old enough to consent, as far as legally concerned, like, of course, like have at it, like do what you want. But I think that what's weird is that we've lost a lot of, I say we talking about the modern Western world. I think that people are forgetting the roots and the foundations. And I think there's this almost, I don't know if I'd call it arrogance or complacency, that you can kind of just completely tear out the roots from the tree and people are expecting the tree to stay standing. And I think that goes for both religion, and a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that one. There's some people are going to hear that and be like, oh, no, we want to get rid, we want secularism. I think, religion and then family, I think those things are kind of the bedrock. So I think liberalism is great in terms of prioritizing the individual and having a individualistic outlook, but you want to, it's a tricky balance because you don't want like collectivism, which is, like obviously people have, some people push political and whatever collectivism, and I'm not for that. But from a societal natural perspective, we are not atomized units. So as far as like laws and politics and stuff go, I think it's, treat people as individuals, judge people as individuals, rate people on their own merits and character and stuff like that, not on their skin color or their gender or their sexuality or anything like that. Like, no, that's and any collective ideology in that sense is bad. But at the same time, you also want to foster shared values and community. So it's like, we're all individuals and you want to treat everybody as individuals, but you don't want to get so individualistic and atomized that people just become completely selfish and nobody cares about their neighbor or their family or their children or somebody, it's so it's kind of like, I don't know the right word for it. Yeah. So it's like a balance there. And I think that, I just think the Western world has kind of become so, is just getting a bit lost, right? I think almost like perhaps as a result of its own success, kind of people have gotten a little bit, I don't know, fat and lazy and silly in terms of understanding what it was that kind of led to that. So when you, for example, talking about like fatherlessness specifically, right? You'll hear some people saying like, you'll see articles come out in blogs or on newspapers, opinion pieces saying, are fathers really necessary? Some feminists will write a piece. Do we still really need men? These kind of pieces. And
they forget how they got pregnant, I guess.
But you're also just kind of thinking of like, it's almost like this thought of like, okay, look, we've built society up to this point. Things are currently peaceful right now. It's nice. Oh, we don't need men anymore, right? We don't need to defend. We don't need police. We don't need soldiers. We don't need men to build things. We don't need builders. We don't need carpenters. It's like you're kind of just throwing away. It's like you almost want to throw away this whole thing. And it's like, oh yeah, it's fine to raise being a single mother is completely fine. That's ideal. In fact, that might even be better than having a man around. And it's just like you're losing. It's like people are just losing track of what it was that kind of got people to this stage, and also what is the best thing generally for a society.
Well, it's worked for so long. It's a reason that it's traditional.
Yeah, and there's a reason it takes a man and a woman to make a baby. I don't think that's whether someone believes in evolution or God or both. Like I don't think that's like an accident that it takes both parents and males. If you look at the strengths and weaknesses of men in general, and you take the strengths and weaknesses of women in general, right? Yeah. They compensate for each other. Mm-hmm. Okay, definitely. So if you take a man and you take a woman, you take a husband and wife, and you put them together, father and mother.
They're better at different things.
Yin and yang, right? The father's job is not going to be exactly the same thing as the mother's job. And again, you've got this idea of, oh, boys should be more like girls, or men should be more like women, or women should be more like, and it's like, no, stop. Like, no, like, stop. Right? I'm just like, stop. Like, this doesn't mean like you need to like enforce, some like fascistic gender roles on people. You're just saying like, look, like there's something that, we've got different personality types and different strengths and weaknesses. So let the men be men, let the women be women. Amen. Put them together. Lo and behold, look, society balances out and things work. You don't need to force women into things that they don't want to be doing. You don't need to force men into things they don't want to be doing. It's like, let people, make these decisions and do what they want. And also, and just remember what actually works and if you're talking about children, what's good for the child? Like what's a better situation? A child having one parent or a child having, either just a father or just a mother or having both, right? 95% of the time, like, of course you get exceptions where, one parent is super crazy or abusive or whatever, but in 95% of cases, all other things being equal, it's better to have both economically, socially, in terms of raising, in terms of discipline. Like this is not rocket science. I don't need to, someone will be like, oh, what's your study for that? I'm like, I don't need a study. Right, the study is just like common sense.
That's the same arrogant that if you don't have a uterus, you have no say on abortion. Like, I mean, is there men's issues that we're excluding women from? I don't think so.
No, well, by that notion, women should have no say in war or anything that really involves conflict because they're generally not the ones on the front lines for it. We live in a society, like anyone can have an opinion on anything. In certain instances, you might have someone whose opinion might be more valid because they've experienced it, or they live in a certain place or whatever. But with most issues, it's like, it's not really like that. Moving on a little. So coming to the idea of like godlessness, this is a tricky one. And it's something that I know I'm friends with plenty of people who don't believe in God, and we have some really interesting discussions.
Yeah, me too.
And my thought is I think atheism works for individuals. I think it can work well for individuals. For an entire society or country, I'm not convinced. Certainly not in the long term. In the short term, I think it could work. But I think in the long term, I think two things happen. I think one is that, again, it's this idea of a tree losing its root. Because if it just becomes like, okay, human beings are God, or the government is God, or whatever, and there's no higher power or higher authority, then morality very rapidly can become totally subjective, right? You hear a lot of people these days talking about morality being subjective, which is partially true, I think. But
you mean
it's
like
also
like a construct of society almost?
Exactly, yeah. Okay. So the idea that there's no set morality, okay?
Right.
So in my world, killing an innocent person is wrong, period. Okay? But if you live in a world of subjective morality, depending, sometimes killing an innocent person
murderer, then maybe it's okay.
Yeah, well, no, that's not even that, because that's not an innocent person.
There you
see
go.
what I mean?
Perfect.
Right? Yeah. The death penalty that can be discussed, but that's in a separate category.
Okay.
So an innocent person, an innocent child, an innocent adult, whatever. To me, in my worldview, in my morality, that is just objectively wrong,
untouchable,
flat. Like, yeah, they're more like it's not. Yeah, it's just wrong. Okay. In my worldview, cheating on your husband or wife or spouse is morally
unacceptable.
It's wrong. Yeah, it's unacceptable, right? But in a world of subjective morality, especially if you're quite intelligent and intellectual, you can kind of justify anything. You know what I mean? So stuff that people view morally reprehensible. So I don't know, like an easy example would be like, okay, someone cheating on their boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife. Like, what if they didn't find out? Then why is it immoral? Right? Someone could easily justify and say, well, it's moral because it didn't harm anybody, which is true. Nobody got physically harmed. As long as the sex someone else had was consensual, nobody got harmed, didn't affect anybody's emotions because nobody found out. So, it becomes very easy to, someone could do that and then be like, well, why is it wrong? Who is to say it's wrong? Who's the authority to say this thing is wrong? And then you have other ideas. I mean, and then it can get murkier than that. So like I said, coming back to things like killing other human beings, this is what happened in like Nazi Germany and some of the communist regimes and stuff, right? It became like, well, what if it's for the greater good in somebody's mind? So somebody could think, oh, okay, what if we, someone could think, oh, well, what if we just, killed all the homeless people, right? That would make society better in some measures, right? Someone could actually argue that, and they could, and they could look at certain stats and do certain things. It could be, oh, look, there'd be no more homeless people, the population would decrease, there'd be less pollution, there'd be lower. I mean, you see this, because you see people saying like, oh, it's good to, some people's argument for abortion is like, oh, it's good because the world is overpopulated and people are affecting climate change. Yeah. So I'm like, right. I'm like, that's like Thanos, right? Have you seen Infinity War? That's literally like Thanos' morality. Okay. Well, he just wants to wipe out half of the universe's population because there's too much strain on resources. Okay. So the whole reason he's getting all the Infinity Stones is so that he can kill half of the entire universe's population so that there's less strain on resources. And I'm like, that's his morality. Right, which in his worldview like makes sense, like from a completely, rational scientific perspective, but from a moral one, it's like, ooh, like, right. So so I don't know. I think, so with all that said, I think that the problem with, I guess, complete godlessness in a society is I think that over time, morality just slips. It slips into, like, because what are the fundamentals of what's it based on? Is it based on feelings? Is it based on, and again, if you take that approach, most people who would take that approach will be, have the view that human beings are just essentially animals, right? You're just advanced animals. And we know that most animals don't really have proper morality, do they? Mm-hmm. Right? So human beings we don't hold human beings to the same standard as we hold dogs or beetles or birds, right? Mm-hmm. Crabs will birth their children and then immediately start eating their children if they're hungry, right? Mm-hmm. If a human being did that, we'd be like, right? So,
hey, we haven't done that for at least 100 years.
Yeah, so, human beings are held to a different standard. And, a religious person would say, yeah, human beings are created in the image of God, and so we're not just animals. We're like super special in that regard, but not everybody believes in that. So it's like, okay, well, if we're just animals, I'm a straight young man. My animalistic urge might be to run around and impregnate as many viable females as possible to pass on my genetics. But like that could get dodgy really quickly if I just go full animal mode. You see what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, I think so. There's that, and then on the second one, which is a little more might sound a little more controversial, but I also just think that a godless society in the long term will be conquered by one that is not. That's also what I think. Because unless you're going to snap your fingers and get rid of all the religion in the entire world from 7.5 billion people at once, I think those who maintain that cohesion and that belief will, in the long term, essentially overpower or just outbreed those who don't. That's
so you think totalitarianism sets in then in the absence of God? I'm just thinking while we're talking here, I mean, humans have believed in some type of higher power, some God for almost ever. It's not like, Jesus and Mary are a new story. There were other gods before them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, human beings want to believe in something. And I mean, if you look back at the 20th century and you look at the totalitarian regimes, so like the Nazi regime, the communist regime in different countries, one of the first things they do is they root out religion.
Right.
And that's not accidental, because human beings need to believe in something as a individual, maybe not always as individuals, but as a community. People want a higher purpose, right? I have a theory that this links to the whole like SJW collective weird intersectional movements as well, because I've noticed that people who are religious seem to be quite immune to that virus, which is interesting. And so I don't know if that's something you've observed, right? You won't find a lot.
I put it in a different context, almost like you look at the black population in the States are deeply, deeply religious. And going back to what I said earlier, it's almost like when you're on your knees and you're fucking broken. Like, I mean, I think that might have something to do with the amount of faith, because man, they had almost nothing else other than their belief in God.
Yeah. I mean. Yeah, I just think there's something in individuals, like people want to believe in something. It can be a religion, it can be an ideology, it can be a diet, right?
This is what so many people I find now are religious about veganism. They're religious about abortion. They're religious about atheism. Like that is their religion. They don't even get that that's their ideology, but they live it as a religion. And, I like Peterson's when he takes a swat at this, and he certainly doesn't come out like he knows it all, especially when it comes to God, but this idea that your ideology can be your religion. And
absolutely.
You just adopt it.
Absolutely. I joke with people sometimes, especially online. Like I've spoken to some people who are like hardcore atheists, and I often joke with them. I'm like, dude, you're more religious than I am.
Yeah. And you
right?
live by all the same standards that we've had.
Yeah, like sometimes I'll be like, you're more like, when I talk about my belief in God, I'm like, maybe not all or most religious people might be like this. I accept that I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's faith.
It's the
faith.
other side that fights it tooth and nail when they have they're not any more sure than I am.
Someone will want me to provide like a written mathematical proof of how
Formula.
I know God exists, and I'm like, I believe that God exists.
Yeah.
Right? I have faith that God exists. I'll be the first to put my hands up. I'll be like, you know what? I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Like, I don't. Right. If someone wants to know why I believe in God, I'm happy to explain that and have that conversation.
Yeah.
But I can't honestly, as someone who's like and tries to be an honest person, I cannot be like, I know 100% certain that everything I believe is correct.
And judge everyone else accordingly because of your beliefs.
No.
Right?
I'm like, this is my belief. You're welcome to disagree with me. Other people are welcome to believe in different things. My belief is not going to lead me to harm anybody or discriminate against anybody or kill anybody. I'm not going to, like, if people start using religion for that reasons, then that's certainly a problem. But yeah, I just find it weird sometimes when I get in conversations with people and they're like so overzealous. Like, they're the ones who are talking with more certainty than I am. And I'm like, I'm just like, which is where I start finding it funny, right? Or
yeah, well, especially when they condescend, when they're looking down their nose at you like you're a freaking idiot, like they know better than you do. And you want to have this conversation. I like how Rube and maybe even Crowder, their tactic in debate is backing up until we agree.
Yeah.
And then let's take it small steps forward to find out where our beliefs fork in the road, and then maybe we can have some understanding of why that happens. And I appreciate your thoughts on that. Not to put God at the bottom of the ladder here, but I want to move on to some, especially the conversation. Like I feel like I know your heart. I feel like I've watched and seen you perform enough that I can see that there's an underlying commitment. You're provocative. Don't get me wrong, but provocative for the sake of this underlying commitment. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but talk to me a little bit about this, the left and the right. I came up with this, and this is like 2 years ago. I think it was a self-created lie that I created for myself, was that the left and right was further apart than they'd ever been. They hate each other more than they ever have. And you can put men and women in that same camp. And so I wanted to know, like, what's going on here? Why are we more politically divided? Why are we seemingly at each other's throats? And then I think it took, I did this deep dive with Peterson, with the big five personality types. I think that speaks a lot to who we are. I know you've spoken about that on other programs. This idea that, we're all different, right? And we're born different. Like, I didn't know this, that we're actually born liberal and conservative. Like,
it's very linked to personality.
There is a little bit that's obviously that is a product of our environment and this kind of stuff. So I came to maybe the understanding that maybe my idea of it was off. And like you said, we're not any more divided, especially if you go back to times of war, civil wars. We've had wars in our own country. That the left and right is actually not. Maybe we're further apart, but we're not deep. We're not more deeply divided than we've ever been. Again, and here's the proof. Because the moderate middle that say nothing is 95, 97% of us. We're in the middle. We don't say anything. Yeah. I don't consider. I might be in that group, but that. The extremes are the ones that have the loudest voice now, and they're actually convincing fairly intelligent guys like me in the middle that they're the majority, that they speak for society, when really, I mean, if you go back and look at it, evolution, the fringe ideas that were radical and extreme, the people that came up with these ideas were killed and persecuted. Then And expectations change over time. Human sacrifice used to be something that was commonly accepted. We don't do that anymore. We don't eat our own people. We don't. This kind of stuff.
We don't eat each other. But I don't. The human sacrifice one, I'd argue, is still. But that's a whole another kettle of fish.
Yeah, at least it's not common anymore. But I just came from this idea that we're more divided, and then I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe not. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just that the extremes now, with the social media the way it is, have this huge platform. Mm-hmm. And now I think with Trump's done a lot of things, good and bad for society. I like the fact that everyone's political now. Everyone's talking about politics. So if nothing else, Trump did something.
Well, Trump just landed in the UK right now, and I was laughing about the fact that I was laughing about the fact that people are protesting him. I just think it's like, just go be useful, man. Like, what's protesting Trump going to do for your life? Seriously.
Yeah, so I just came to the conclusion that no, we're not further divided. No, we're not at each other's throats more than we ever been. It's just the extremes that have a louder voice now.
Both are true, I don't know about Canada and the UK. In America, the Republicans and Democrats are more divided than they've been for about the past 50 years or so, and that's factual. That's factual. So in terms of their actual position, Republicans haven't moved very much, but Democrats have moved a lot further left.
Oh, for sure.
There's actually some interesting data on this, and not just that, but the feelings. Like if it was something like if you went back to like 1980, even, like most Democrats didn't actively dislike most Republicans and vice versa, whereas now that's not true. Something like 70%, I'd think, of like Democrats actively dislike Republicans, and a majority of Republicans actively dislike Democrats, where it didn't used to be like that. In terms of why it's the case, I mean, I think it's a few reasons. I do think some of it is some of the stuff that we touched on earlier about loss of common values, right? And one of those common values, whether people like it or not, or think it's better or not, one of those things is religion, right? So that's one of those things. Like one thing I love, when I'm in my church, I mean, or any other church I go to if I'm visiting, it's like you've got, like, people talk a lot about diversity. It's like you got genuine diversity in there. You'll see people of all different colors, shapes, sizes,
and that's
backgrounds,
a strength when you have a common belief.
Yeah, exactly. But that the belief unites everybody.
Right.
And actually, it's a tricky one, because I think here's one thing about human beings that I've really come to understand in the last few years, is that human beings are naturally lean towards tribalism.
I was going to ask you that. Do you think that hate comes really naturally? Like, I mean, I feel like we're all taught to fear the stranger. Different color, different sexual orientation. Yeah. We're just, you look at it and we're like, what? No, I'm not going to.
Yeah. When I say tribalism, I don't mean hate. I just mean that people are naturally tribal. So this could be, you see it in sport. Sports are a great example, right? Because sports taps completely into people's natural tribalism. And you see how that tribalism plays out in sport. And I think sport is good because it's like, it's a way to vent that tribalism without actually hurting or fighting each other. It's almost like a mini war, isn't it? Right? If you watch American football,
on the field, the play,
or you
and
watch
sometimes even in the stands,
yeah. And what's interesting is the things that make you good at sport are the things that would have made you like a very good hunter, right? So it's like it's accurate throwing and hitting and fighting and dexterity and agility and speed and endurance. It's basically like these are the people who would have been like apex hunters. Back in the day. So it's almost like society still kind of worships those people. It's just that rather than hunting, they might be really good at kicking a ball or throwing a ball or shooting it into a hoop. And, they're big, they're tall. These are people who would have been like the hunters and the warriors in the past. And so in that way, it's like we haven't really evolved much, if you see what I mean. And I don't think tribalism is inherently bad. I think it's just that what's important is how big the tent is. Right. I think you want to make the tent as big as possible
and inclusive as possible.
Yes, and as inclusive as possible. Because if you don't, what seems to naturally happen is people fall back into this stuff. Right. It's like this whole identity politics stuff. It's like people, and that's why I think you see it on both sides. So if you go on the far right side of the spectrum and you've got people who are like pushing for like ethno-nationalism or separatism or like what I found really interesting over the last few years is the far right and the far left, like the true far right and far left, I think they're a lot more similar than they'd like to believe. Okay, because they both see the world through a very racial lens. They see everything as groups rather than as individuals. So whether you're looking at the far right or the far left, you're going to hear stuff about white people and Jews and black people and people of color and this and that, and it's like they use the same words and they're kind of coming at it from slightly different angles, but they're still doing the same thing. They're looking at this conversation and they're like, this is a white man talking to a black man, right? I look at this conversation and I'm like, two dudes talking to each other. You see what I mean? Like I can.
Well, you're assuming my sexual identity, Zuby.
I am. Yeah, we're all doing that. Sorry, part of my bigotry. Yeah, but like, of course, like, it doesn't mean other people are not aware of like what people look like. You sure, but it's not the thing that you view the whole world through, right? You're not viewing the entire world through like, these are my people and these are other people, or and that's what both people on the very far left and the people on the very far right do. And it's kind of two sides of the same coin. And I think both ideologies are destructive and do and have led to really, really bad results when people have actually tried to enforce these policies from top down, whether you're talking about slavery and Jim Crow, or you're talking about Nazi Germany, or you're talking about the Soviet Union and some of the stuff they did there. Like anytime, or even like in Africa, like the Rwandan genocide, right? That was, and that was people who looked the same. Right. Like that was people who looked the same, but again, they fell into their tribal thing of like, okay, we're what was it? It was the Tutsis and the other
Sunnis.
What was it?
I can't remember.
Yeah. You see the same thing in some of the Islamic countries,
though, right?
And that's within the same religion, right? So
the
vast majority of Islamic terrorism is Muslim on Muslim, right? But it's Sunni versus Shia.
Right.
Or in Northern Ireland, you had the whole Catholic and Protestant.
Right.
You had bombing each other and all, and so. And that, to me, that's like negative tribalism. That's just like, you're both you're all Christians, but you're saying, okay, we're Roman Catholics and we're Protestants, so we're going to now fight across those lines. Whereas actually, if you made the banner if you went up one notch, you'd see you're all Christians. Yeah. If you go up a higher notch, you'll see you're all Irish. If you go up a higher notch, you'll see you're all human beings, right? You see, so it's like you can go further, and then this is interesting. One of the guys I spoke to on my podcast, Bobby, because he spent some time in prison. And one thing he was telling me about is just, and you see this in movies, but how racially divided prison is, right? So when people go to prison, they fall back into these like ethnic gangs. So you've got the black gangs, you've got the white gangs, you've got the Latino gangs, and people just fall back into this completely racial, tribal mode of being, which they weren't really in on the outside. And
even though they're unified with a common cause, they're all incarcerated. It's not much of a cause, but yeah. So it's weird. So I think that kind of recognizing the fact that this is a phenomenon that clearly seems to exist across the billions of human beings, and always seems to have. Like, you look at history, people have kind of been doing this forever. The groups that they split themselves by change, but it's been happening forever. And I think we reached like a really nice stage where, certainly in the Western world, it's like, I think people, I want to say kind of from the mid to late 80s up until like the early 2010s, it's like things hit a nice balance, I think. Things hit a nice balance. Like, you weren't really hearing, it was like, everyone, it seemed like 98% of people recognized, like, okay, let's, we're all human beings. Like, we've got some differences, but let's just get on with each other. And the biggest reason I really dislike identity politics and the current wave of, people talking about privilege and oppressors and white guilt and white fragility and white man this and straight white men this and just this whole demonization. Intersectionality.
Like, okay, cool. Okay, cool. Like, we've been racist to everybody else. Let's be racist towards white people now, and it's acceptable because
it's our turn.
Be racist. you can't be racist against white people. People say, right? Yeah. And I'm just like, dude, like, you're doing the exact same thing that you've been moaning about forever. right? You've just inverted it.
That's how I feel about the guys that hate Trump so badly right now. I'm like, you don't even see that you are being Trump right now, you idiots.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I saw that the London mayor Sadiq Khan had put out some article in the Guardian about, and I was just like, dude, he was complaining about divisiveness whilst being divisive. This is what always happens. Like the media will be like, oh, there's too much division in the USA, blah, we're tired of division. But what we really need to do is recognize that white men are the biggest threat to the country. And you're like,
sounds like CNN now.
You're like, dude, listen to yourself.
Thanks, Don Lemon.
You're like,
idiot.
That's like a legitimate sentence out of someone's mouth. And you're just like, dude, like, what makes you think
how are you still employed? That's
but you're just like, the hypocrisy just amazes me. I'm just like,
and they can't even see it. It's just
like I'm really, I mean, my worldview is very simple. I'm just like,
love is the answer, baby.
Dude,
love.
I'm just like, I'm like a true equalist, like true, like to the core. I'm like, when people say like treat people as individuals, I really mean that. Not like people say it as a platitude, but it's like no, like, but so few people like. A lot of people aren't really doing it, right? You'll get people talking about, we need to treat people with equality and dignity, and we want to embrace diversity and embrace this and that. And then that exact same person will then jump on Twitter and start attacking somebody for their skin color, or for the fact that they're a man, or for the fact that they're straight, or the fact that they're gay, and you're just like, dude, like. Practice what you preach.
Well, it's okay because they're privileged, and we need to chop these people down with all this privilege, man.
That's the thing. I'm just like, and the things that people classify as making people privileged are so arbitrary and random too. Right. So as someone like myself, maybe I feel passionately about this because like I'm actually privileged in a lot of ways. You
consider yourself to be pretty privileged.
Yeah, like I'm genuinely pretty privileged, right? So when I hear this idea of like, if I'm with a group of other black people who have like a similar background to me or whatever, and I hear one of them like say something about, white privilege, and I'm like, dude, like we in this room are more privileged than like 98% of, the white people in this country, right? Like
almost everyone alive today is privileged.
Let alone
technology and food and all that.
If you go further than our own countries, like I've never heard anybody who is not privileged talk about privilege in this way. Never. I've never heard anybody who is not privileged make a big deal about somebody else's privilege. All the people who espouse these ideas and who go along with this crazy, weird intersectional religion, all of them are privileged.
On their iPhone.
All of them are privileged. Down with capitalism from your $1,000 phone. All of them are privileged. It's amazing, right? If you go to parts of Africa, if you go to parts of Asia, if you go to South, no one is there like talking about privilege, or if they are, they're specifically talking about someone who's like in the royal family or in the government or something like that where they have some kind of nepotism. So like I'm just like, look, all these ideas just need to get buried. Like I'm sick of them. Like there's nothing. I don't think anything positive comes of them. Like I literally just think it's a pure destructive force. It's not like it's like, oh, okay, well, it's good for this and that. I'm just like, no, the whole thing is crap. Like it's just a bad.
Good for
it's
you.
a bad idea. Do you know what I mean? Like
definitely.
Tell me what is good about intersectional identity politics. Like how is it good? What's good about it? What's it bringing to society? Nothing. Literally nothing. You could have said that there was a time, when there were laws on the books that specifically discriminated against certain people. Then it made more sense to be like, okay, well, there's a law that specifically discriminates against black people or against women.
That's almost like if you come out today and say there's, racism. We don't. You take the States for example. The United States is not a racist country. Like, yes, racist happens. Historically, it did happen, but right now we're living in the best of times, and to say that our country, our province, or the globe is inherently racist right now, I just say, well, show me how. Obviously, it happens, but that's the thing. If you come out now and say, you know what, we don't live in a misogyny, we don't live in a rape culture. What do you mean? Then the leftists come out and they're like, are you kidding me? Rape happens all the time, and we get it, but we deal with it significantly. It's treated seriously. Here's
the problem. Here's a thought I had recently. I think that I'd be interested in this. I might tweet this out later to if I can phrase it properly. But
I'm going to scoop you. I won't get half as much traction though.
I think a big problem. This is like a new thought. I've never heard someone articulate this.
Okay.
I think that as societies and laws genuinely become more equal, inclusive, and tolerant,
yeah.
the necessity for left-wing politics decreases, both socially and politically. Do you see what I mean?
So you think it's a work-making excursion for those on the left because they feel like, we're getting better?
Well, they like if you're a left-wing, say if you're like a left-wing politician or you're someone who's into this identity, like you need there to be an oppressor and a victim for your whole thing to even work.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
And fear.
Right. Huh?
And fear.
Yeah. Well, if racism, if you literally completely somehow removed all racism and sexism from society overnight, what would these people do?
Right.
You see what I mean? The whole thing is based on racism, sexism, homophobia, and other types of bigotry existing so that you can stamp them out. And there's certainly been times, and there still are many, many countries around the world where that is still needed.
Yes, absolutely.
But in the Western world, it's getting harder and harder to genuinely say that we live in like a really discriminatory, racist, homophobic, sexist,
and
whatever.
And then we're moved to Jesse Smollett, someone, like we live in such a great time that we have to fake race baiting.
Yeah, you have to pretend stuff, right? People are making up fake rape cases, fake hate crime cases, fake, because it's like it needs to, and people almost like one of the funniest things with that whole Jesse Smollett thing was how disappointed people were when they found out it wasn't real. I was like, shouldn't you be happy? Shouldn't you be glad?
It's the same with Trump when they found out there was no collusion. They're like, oh, there's got to be some. Isn't it a good thing? Like the guy's a dick. He did some crazy things. I would, morally and all that kind of stuff. But when you find out there's no, proof, there's no circumstantial evidence that the leader of the great, one of the freest countries in the world actually didn't do something wrong, and somehow that's a bad thing. And the media was it was so predictable. You could have predicted that, no problem. You say, okay, when this happens, they're going to come out and say, yeah, but, unbelievable.
Yeah, it was really bizarre. Like, people were literally disappointed that, like, this horrible racist attack didn't.
It was most noticeable on the media because you would think these people are unbiased and objective.
Oh, you wish.
They're totally not, man. And I've been drawn to that, and I think that's another plus for me and Trump. And I am not a Trump. So, you know what? I will say this, though. Last time around, if I had a vote in the States, I would have voted, and Bernie was around, Bernie would have been my guy. I'm still a lefty on social issues and everything. Sure. But now we've got Ford in Ontario. Ford's a conservative, and he's undoing the last 8 or 10 years or 12 years of liberal rule that we had that was just ideologically possessed. And now I'm not a conservative. I'm a Green Party guy. That's as left as you can get. And I've come around on some of my issues, free speech, abortion, capital punishment. I've changed only just recently. So they're kind of like, and I'm not cemented in those views because I don't really know exactly where you draw the line, but I am just so amped to see the pendulum, the political pendulum swing back to take out all that was done on the left. And I don't agree with it. He's cutting social programs. He's making class sizes bigger. He's, they're putting beer in corner stores. Like, that should be a priority. But I'm just so excited to see Trump, and I think it's happening more and more all over the world. Conservative governments coming in to undo all the leftist. One of my favorite hashtags, leftist madness. It's madness that these people can think that. So I'm cheering them on, even though I'm not a fan and not a voter. But this time around, I'd vote Trump. I seriously would vote Trump.
So would I. I said that on Twitter, and it blew up.
I'm not going to put that. I'm going to edit that out of this podcast. I don't want anyone to know that. But it's not ideologically. It's not ideologically placed. It's not based in personality. It's just based on, the left has had their run for a long time, and they've done whatever the hell they wanted. And I take great pleasure in watching it being undone. That's all.
I mean, I think the truth is, you always want to be somewhere in the middle. I think as an entire nation, right? Like people will individually have their different views
Ashley
and stuff.
St. Clair called me a moderate. I finally know what my label is now. I'm like, you bitch. I didn't call her that, but like, you moderate? I told her I don't know what I am. She says you're a moderate. I'm like, how dare you? How dare you?
Oh man, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think like if society starts going too far right, then I will happily vote to bring it a little bit more left.
Right.
Like my thing is always just like, you want it somewhere in the center, whether that's center or center left or center right. Honestly, like as far as I'm concerned and as far as it affects my life, I'm like, you know, whatever. I mean, I think one big problem is, I think it's good, like you touched on earlier, like people are very political now, which is good in a way, but also I think that like my viewpoint, the reason I've become more libertarian over time as well is because I just think like the government is not going to solve all the problems.
No. And more laws aren't going to prevent murder or mass, shootings or whatever. I mean, laws just don't fix that kind of stuff. It's always going to be there. You can't legislate out madness.
The government has a job and it can do it well, but it's up to us as individuals and as families. That's why family is important, and as families and communities and societies and towns and villages, like from all those different scales, to do our best, to maximize our own. That's why I really like Jordan Peterson's overall message. Some people criticize him for not trying to mandate some government things and starting with the individual, but it's like that's been my philosophy for a long time.
And I think why he's so sorry to interrupt, but I think that's why he's like, people are thirsty for his message now, and I think it's because we really have made it acceptable to just have no personal responsibility. I'm late because of the traffic. I'm broke because my boss is an idiot. Just the lack of personal responsibility, and I think that's why it's been picked up by young men. Mostly, well, not mostly, but they always say, YouTube's almost all like my YouTube channel. I have absolutely no female participation on it. None.
Same. Mine is like,
and this idea that it's always somebody else's fault. This is lacking in society, and I think he's been a blessing. Is he perfect? No. Is he provocative? Yes. And he some of his tweets were like, oh geez, you can just see him. He's on his computer. He's had a couple pops, and he's like, you know what I'm gonna do. And it fucking blows up. It's so predictable. But he's people are thirsty for it, and no wonder he's so popular. But I think a lot of his detractors are jealous. They're just envious. They look at this guy and go, how is this guy making $200,000 a year in Patreon, just voluntary donations? You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
Zooey, I really appreciate your time. I don't want to keep you too long, but I do want to hit you with a couple more things. Give me your idea on what you think we need to talk about, either conversations we're not having that are important, or conversations that we're having very badly that need to take place in a more positive forum where we can hear each other. Like, the civilization rests on these type of conversations.
Yeah, sure. Most things. This is the one. I don't know if you saw the interview I did with Trigonometry. My answer to this one was abortion. I think that's something that is. Fortunately, what's interesting is since I did that video, of course, there's been a lot of conversation generated from some of the laws being proposed in the U.S. in different states. So that actually, funnily enough, like a couple weeks after I did that interview, it suddenly became this huge public conversation, which I think is good, actually.
It's been inching slowly towards the public sphere a lot lately since Trump was elected, I think, because people were worried about it.
Yeah, in the UK, it's not. It's not a public conversation in the UK.
You know what they're trying to do in Canada now? Our Liberal government, our left-wing, Trudeau, I know you're familiar with. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to make abortion. In Canada has no law on abortion. It
has no limit.
No law at all. There's no regulation or law on it at all. And this is what the left-wing government is trying to do as an election issue, is bring it in, because that's politically motivated. So just an aside, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I think that's one conversation. The debate the conversation that's being had, from what I can see online, is people are talking like that.
Yeah, past each other.
Yeah, and people are being extremely dishonest, like stupidly dishonest, and just
and the
completely.
Extreme arguments on both sides are as ridiculous as each other's is. It's just absolutely hypocrisy.
Yeah, completely ascientific, and it's just so I think that's something that's one of the few issues that I'm quite yeah, well, not quite. I'm very I have extremely strong I have very very strong views on.
Now, is this something you changed? Were you
I
pro-choice?
did change, yes. I used to not think about it. I went from not thinking about it, which I guess made me pro-choice by default,
Right.
just because that's the law. And then when I really thought about it, it didn't take very long for me to become like pretty hardline pro-life. Just because, again, I listened to both sides of the arguments, and I couldn't myself maintain my position very well in any way that was real, either like that was both moral and rational. And if I hold a position which I cannot morally nor rationally defend, then I need to change my position. I just think the pro-life position is a lot better, to put it simply. A lot more ethical, a lot more moral, a lot more consistent.
Less hypocritical.
Yeah, it's not hypocritical, because there are so many holes in. I mean, I've come across like two good pro-choice arguments like ever that actually were like, made me like properly like think and mull things. Like 90% of the ones you see thrown around online are just terrible. They're just mantras and slogans, or they're just completely ascientific. You're just saying, oh, it's not a baby, it's a clump of cells, and someone's talking about like a 6-month-old. You're just like, dude, like, have you ever seen a scan? Have you ever seen, I don't know if you have any children or nieces or nephews, or you've seen, it's like, come on, man, this is a human being. Like, you can't just deny that based on feelings. Like, it's silly. So yeah, that's one conversation. And then something like less heavy, but just I think that a lot of these conversations, I just think people need to understand the other side better. Like, I was hoping that with Trump getting elected and Brexit happening in the UK and the rise of nationalism in the Europe, I would have hoped that people, especially people on, more left-leaning people, would try to understand what's actually going on, rather than just like pointing at people and screaming racism, xenophobia, hatred, like just screaming stuff, right? And this is what's happening right now. Trump has just landed in the UK today, and people are just screaming stupid terms and tweeting stupid stuff. Like, the mayor of London, like, I'm like, look, mayor, like, Sadiq Khan's not going to hear this podcast. Like, why doesn't the mayor of London, like, if he's got all this beef with Trump, why doesn't, like, I can't meet with Trump. I can't organize he's the mayor of London. Organize a meeting, like, meet him, talk. Do you see what, like, it annoys me? It's like he'll go on Twitter and say like, oh, blah, blah. He'll say bad stuff about him on Twitter, and he'll go on TV and say why he doesn't
face to face to him,
say,
zipped.
It's like, dude, man up. Go and talk to him. If you've got, like, why don't you guys talk? If you've got, like, if there's a particular issue which you think he's that wrong on, or that he's, misrepresenting, like, just talk. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, it's so obvious to me, right? It's so obvious to me. And this goes across all the things. Like, if you're a Republican and you think like Democrats are just insane, like, go talk to them. If you're a Democrat and you think all the Trump voters are insane, like, talk to them, find out why. Oh, why did you vote Trump? Rather than going, oh, everyone who voted Trump is racist, which is a pretty damning and divisive thing to say. Why don't you go, that's not what I expected. Let me. Oh, you know what? Like, 10 of my friends who, like, I like and who I know are good people voted for Trump. Why don't I talk to them and find out why? Rather than just going, oh, no, they voted for Trump, so they're no longer my friends, and like Xing people out and doing all this canceling bullcrap. It's like, why don't you talk to people? Yep. That's the thing. It's like, I mean, like, in the UK, I mean, it's not quite as polarized, but of course you've got the big thing is Brexit with the Remain and Leave, and you've got people who voted Remain who were then like, oh, everybody who voted Leave is just racist and they hate immigrants and all this. And you're just like, dude, there are completely valid reasons why people would vote Remain, and there's completely valid reasons why people would vote Leave, which have nothing to do with being racist or hating immigrants. And I mean, if you think that the country is that bad, then I kind of feel sorry for you to begin with. But why don't you just talk to each other, and then you can have the debate and you can share ideas, and that person who voted Leave might think, oh, I guess you've got a fair point there, and you might do the same thing. And at least you'll, even if you don't agree, you've had the discussion and you'll go away more informed. You'll have a better understanding of the other position. I mean, I'd like to think on any big issue, down to the fundamental things like believing in God, like I think I could argue from an atheist perspective very, very well.
Sure.
Like I could pretend to be an atheist.
Yeah, you could steel man the argument. Yeah.
I could like completely convince somebody that I'm an atheist because I understand the perspective, and I get the perspective. Like I think it makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. I think right. It's not even that I think it's like a complete. It's like no, I get it. Like I can understand why you would not believe in God, just as much as I can understand why I and other people do believe in God. It's not like, okay, this one makes sense and the other one's completely bonkers. It's like, no, I get both positions. I understand the pro-choice position. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. I just think that it's generally based on not looking at the full picture. I think the pro-choice argument hinges very largely on ignoring what is being done to the fetus or baby and just completely focusing on framing it as a women's rights issue rather than a human rights issue. And I think that's kind of like very selective framing, whereas I think the pro-life position is looking at the whole picture and like, okay, what's actually going on when an abortion happens, and let's not ignore that there is a life, or at least depending on the stage, a potential life, human life that is being taken here, which is the honest position. And like, yes, there is, of course, women are the ones who get pregnant. It's women who carry children. So yes, there is that perspective, but there's also another one. So when people are just my body, my choice, no uterus, no opinion, you're like, what about the baby? Right? It's not a baby, it's a clump of cells. And you're like, well, no, that's not true. And it's just such a hard-headed, annoying position, because it's like, okay, can we have an honest conversation here? You see what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, that was a long-winded answer.
Zuby
that's my
Music. I appreciate your time, brother. And I'm going to keep you just for a few minutes longer. And then, again, thank you so much for your time. So what would you say that your underlying commitment is? I acknowledged you're a little provocative. And then we can talk about your tweet in the gym the other day. Because I think your underlying commitment is much different than how it comes off. It comes off as clickbait, right? So...
I don't do clickbait. Never. I provoke. I don't do clickbait.
Okay.
Clickbait is deceiving people.
Oh, okay. I got you. All right. Yeah. Well, thanks for the
clickbait would be like putting up this interview and saying like,
oh, right.
YouTube title putting Zuby gets naked, and then they post a video and Zuby doesn't get naked. Right. That would be clickbait.
Okay. Gotcha.
If you just put like a provocative title that's true, then that's
all right. Thanks for that.
Yeah. That's all good. What's my goal?
Commitment?
To have a positive impact on over 10 million people.
That's everything that you do. It underlies when you're working out in the gym, when you're practicing your faith, when you're loving your girlfriend, whatever. Yeah,
my lifetime goal,
making a difference,
is to have a positive impact. Yeah, not just a difference, a large scale difference. I want to do that through my music, through my voice, my speaking, my conversations, through my knowledge, any gifts I have that I can provide to the world and maximize, I want to do that. Okay. So online, offline, public speaking, touring, coaching, online video, podcasts, interviews. I want it all to be things that, I hope people will listen to this and cool, that's another X number of people who I've had a positive impact on. And that could be in different ways. That could be making them think a little differently. That could be saying something motivational that helps them in their lives somehow. That could be just hearing my story and thinking, that guy's done something. I can do the same. So that's really what my North Star is.
Awesome. Well, I want your body, but I don't want to work for it. I don't want to pay for it in any particular way. I don't want to have to wake up early. I don't want to have to go to the gym every day. But, dude, you got something rolling there. Speaking of which, tell me about the deadlift, man. Where did that come from, and how was that motivated, and how has that changed your life, if any?
Dude, it's certainly changed my life, man.
Yeah?
It's brought me to the awareness of hundreds of thousands, if not millions more people.
First of all, just for people that don't know what happened, tell us what you did.
Okay, so I think it was the 26th of February, I tweeted a short video of me doing a 230 kg deadlift in the gym, which is well below my maximum, I want to add. It's 15 kilos above the British women's deadlift record in my weight class. So I posted this tweet, and I said in the tweet that I keep hearing about how biological men don't have any strength advantage over women in 2019. So watch me destroy the British women's deadlift record without trying. And then I wrote, P.S. I identified as a woman while lifting the weight, so don't be a bigot. And it went super viral. The video's now got well over 1.5 million views on the original tweet. It was covered by like most news organizations covered it. Apart from the ones who have an ideological slant against someone exposing that, so which is also interesting. Those who chose to cover it and those who didn't, and yeah, it blew up. I gained, at the time I tweeted it, I had 19,000 followers. I've now got 63,000. Of which about 20,000 came within the next like sort of 20 days of it. And it's just raised my profile very, very significantly. What's been great is so many people have discovered my music and my podcast and my writing and other works through that thing. Yeah, that was kind of the gateway. I think the timing was good because it wasn't like I was just some random person who posted this thing and so people saw it and then disappeared really quickly. People saw it and then were like, "Oh, this guy's actually interesting. Oh, cool. He's a good rapper. Oh, he does podcasts. Oh, his Twitter feed is really interesting." So people kind of came for the deadlift and then stayed for the conversation and for the music and for everything else. So it's been it's been really valuable in terms of raising my profile and my followers and putting me on the radar of a lot of big people. Like, you know, Joe Rogan now follows me on Twitter. I mean, most of the so-called intellectual dark web follows me on Twitter, with a handful of exceptions. So that's been really positive. I'm looking to get out to the States, hopefully in September.
Nice. And
some stuff in the U.S. And it's all it's been a weird thing for that to be one of the biggest catalysts for my career, considering how hard I've been plugging away for the past 12 years.
Yeah, and that's kind of like a bonus of your hard work. So how do you resolve that with your underlying commitment of making a positive difference for everyone?
That's a good one. Well, a bigger platform and a bigger audience all feeds into that. So when people are like, "Oh, why do you want to raise your profile?" or "Why do you want to be?" It's like, because then I've got more influence and more impact. If I've got 100,000 followers, I've got even more impact. If I've got 1 million followers, I've got even more impact. And so I want to do good in the world. You know what I mean? That's been my goal since I started making music. I think the first rap I ever wrote, which I don't have access to now, but it was basically about how I want to have a positive impact on the world and how I'm not just doing what I do for my own selfish reasons. I mean, one of the main reasons I became an artist and I went into it full time was, you know, it certainly wasn't for financial gain because I was making a lot more money doing the corporate stuff. But it's because I knew I couldn't have a huge impact on that previous trajectory. Mm-hmm. On the trajectory I'm on now, I have the potential to impact this many people. Whereas before it's like, okay, cool, I'll enrich myself and maybe help a couple people here and there, but I wouldn't have just had the platform and the voice and the public profile to make a big change. And I think that there are a lot of people who have a really big public profile or who are super famous or super wealthy or whatever, and they're not, I guess everyone thinks they're using their platform for good, but I think a lot of people aren't really using their platform in the way that it could be used. You know, some people are, and some in ways I agree with, some in ways I disagree with. I guess they think they're doing good regardless. But that's why I think it's important. And that, like I said, that's why I'm so outspoken, because it's like, well, you're going to have somebody on Twitter who's got 1 million followers who are telling you like that, I don't know, men are bad. Yep. Right? Men are bad, especially white men. Someone with 1 million followers will tweet that. So you need somebody else with 1 million followers to be like, nah, this is bullcrap, and here's why. And then you can let the battle of ideas take place, and I can tell you which of those ideas is stronger. So, you know, I think it's important to have people of, you know, straight thinkers, straight talkers, real talkers. And there seems to be a very healthy appetite for that. I think that my Twitter growth and my growth on other platforms I had so many messages and comments, whether even from people who disagree with me, who were just like, dude, like your authenticity is refreshing. Like, I don't agree with you on everything, but I love the fact that you just, you don't back down. You just say what you think is true.
And I will second that. And your integrity is important to a guy like me, who's when he's running 10 minutes late says, hey bro, I'm running 10 minutes late. It's so simple to not leave a guy waiting. And, you know, I can't tell you how many people roll up and are like, I'm late for everything. Well, not with me, you're not, because there's no integrity in that. So when you shot me that message just before the interview was supposed to start and like, man, I'm running a few minutes late, I'm like, thanks. I appreciate that. Integrity, period.
I was raised well, man. I was honestly, my parents are freaking amazing. My parents are phenomenal. I'll big up my parents. Like they've done a phenomenal job. Like the older I get, the more I respect them.
I agree, and I appreciate them as well. And there's more people like me that are coming along. Brother, we didn't even talk about the book. What's the book about, and how can people get it?
Absolutely. So the book is called Strong Advice, Zuby's Guide to Fitness for Everybody. So it's an ebook. It's very concise but very thorough. It teaches you everything you need to know about how you need to eat and how you need to train, whether your goal is to build muscle, burn fat, get in better shape, improve your physique, all those things. Whether you're a beginner or you've been training for a while, I just wanted to write a no-nonsense guide to basically distill the most important stuff I've learned over the past 16 years, much of it through reading and learning, much of it through trial and error, of what works, what doesn't work, what matters, what doesn't matter, so that if you wanted to go in the gym and you're like, okay, cool, I want to get stronger and lose 20 pounds, this is how you do it. This is exactly how many calories you need to eat, how to calculate it for your own body. These are the most effective exercises that you can do that'll give you the best time for your buck, best bang for your buck in terms of time trade-off in the gym. And and then dispelling a lot of rumors about, people worry about, oh, it's 8 p.m. Can I eat carbohydrates? Oh, is it okay to eat fruit? Oh, can I do this? It's like, look, it just dispels all the rumors and puts it down real plain. If you like the way I tweet, you'll love the book because it's written in the same way I tweet. That's very frank and honest and no BS. If you want to check it out, the link is in my Twitter bio. My Twitter is @ZubyMusic. You can also get the book directly at teamzuby.com, TEAMZUBY.
Now, dude, you're an outlier. You don't smoke. You don't drink. Your rap is all positive. You don't have any tats. I mean, dude, you're breaking the mold, and you're successful, even better, trying to make a positive difference with your rap, something that I really appreciate, brother. So you come off as a guy that's got his shit together, that's very disciplined. If I could just say how you occur for me, a guy that, is talking to you for the first time, even though we're looking through a screen here, I feel like when you look at me, you're actually looking at my eyes. You care enough to make eye contact. So if anything, I want to know, one, how do you stay accountable, and do you have coaches that you stay accountable to, and what do you struggle with? Like, what is your, I look at a guy like you and I'm like, oh man, I have several addictions that I've tried to break. Some I've been successful at dropping completely. Some are still haunting me. Some come up and sneak up on me and grab me once in a while. But I know what it's like when I'm like standing in front of my vice. I'm like, okay, I'll just start again tomorrow. And then I'm weak. I wonder what keeps you strong and what you struggle with and how you stay accountable when you come up against it, when you're really struggling. You're like, okay, I can have this donut or I can stay on my goal. You got to have a higher purpose, I guess, that drives you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say number one is just I think I'm fortunate in terms of my personality type.
Okay.
As in I am and have always been I'm not easily influenced.
You're high on conscientiousness, though?
Extremely high on conscientiousness, extremely low in neuroticism.
Okay. So
I'm not emotional. I'm very unemotional. For better or for worse. But yeah, I mean, I'm like I got 2 on neuroticism out of 100.
Yeah,
like 2.
Me too.
So yeah, so it means I'm not prone to anxiety or depression or any kind of mental health problems or issues or addictions or anything like that, which is fortunate.
Yeah.
And I'm very naturally. I'm naturally disciplined. So if I'm not doing something productive, I feel bad, right? So I don't have a TV in this house. I don't have a I've got like a projector. I've got an Xbox. I haven't turned it on this year because if I'm playing video games, I'm like, man, no, there's something else I could be doing that's more productive. So
yeah.
I'm naturally wired like that. So some of it isn't necessarily me doing anything. I've been like that since I was a child. Like my parents will vouch, like, yeah, I've just been like that.
Just born that way.
And then in terms of outside stuff, I would say certainly my faith helps. So if I'm struggling with something, or I'm very grateful. I'm a very grateful person. I can be a little bit cynical and cautious just because of the way the world is. So there's some things that, I can be a little bit critical of the world sometimes and whatnot, but I'm extremely grateful. And I have a good sense of perspective, having grown up across 3 different countries and cultures, and sort of traveled to over 30 countries. I've seen a lot of the world, and I've seen true hardship. I've seen true poverty. I haven't lived through it, and I'm grateful I haven't lived through it.
Amen.
But I've seen what it looks like, and it's just given me this lens and perspective on the world where I'm like, there's so many thousands of things I can be grateful for. So I try not to complain. I've got really great friends. I've got a fantastic family. I come from a big family. I've got 4 siblings. I've got 9 nieces and nephews. My parents are wonderful. They're still together. I was hanging out with them this weekend.
Awesome.
So yeah, so I've got a really, really tight family, great friends. And yeah, and then I guess I try to be, I think just trying to be authentic helps, just kind of it's cathartic for me. And I'll tell you another one is fitness. Being in shape, going to the gym. That's been like a ritual for me for like 15 years, just that's the one place where I don't think about anything else. I just go in there, I train. It's something that I can constantly be working on. And I think that really does help to ground me a lot. I find if I take like 4 or 5 days off the gym, I start getting like quite edgy, and I kind of lose my.
Starts kind of feels like on your mind, eh?
Yeah, I feel like I'm permanently hungry. That's what it's like. Like I become my temper becomes a little like I've got a super long temper, but I become a little more snappy and a bit more moody and stuff like that.
Interesting.
So yeah, I think for me it's that. It's partially personality, and then just having a big goal, my personal faith, having great family, great friends, trying to be authentic, trying to improve myself, and all those things combined, just they help me just kind of stay on the straight and narrow, I guess you could say.
My brother, I love you, man. I appreciate your time. It's been nothing but positivity. I've learned a little bit watching your feed, and I think it's cool that you still make time for the little guys. I got CC Bucko coming on next week.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, CC's cool, man.
Robin, I've been following her for a long time. I love her take, too, and the strength of a strong woman to have a conservative take or any of her takes and just stand behind it. I'm really looking forward to talking to her too. So I look forward to getting down with a little bit more of your content, especially Gad Sad. Just on the way out, tell me about Gad, the Gadfather. Isn't he the most beautiful man?
that's my beautiful sister of color right there.
Yeah, I did see that tweet.
we stand in solidarity.
Yeah, man. I appreciate everything you're doing, and much success to you. Much love from across the pond. And bro, if you ever find yourself in Niagara Falls or even in the Toronto area, I'm only an hour outside of Toronto. Love to hang with you, man. It'd be awesome to put my arm around you.
I'll be there at some point. I've been before, so I'll come again.
All right, Zuby. Appreciate the time, man. Thank you very much.
Appreciate
good luck.
You. Have a good one, bro.
Right,
take care.
Peace. Now can I figure out how to turn this thing off, Zub? Don't spell my name wrong. All right, brother. We'll talk soon. Peace.
Take care, man.
That was Zuby. If you need him, add Zuby Music on Twitter. Check him out. Let's see if we can stop this recording now. Add Zuby Music on Twitter. Did get some video of him that's just rendering, it looks like now. Man, I'm glad that my picture's so small and that his is so large. Good looking dude, man, and fit. At Zuby Music, he is Oxford educated, a British rapper. All positivity with his raps. He's the host, Real Talk with Zuby. You can catch him on YouTube. author of the book Strong Advice. It's about fitness and training, and he's a coach, self-described free thinker. I think that's awesome, and an inspiration for now, millions of people. Well, he's got 120,000 followers across all platforms of social media. Perseverance, the best of Zuby, is available now ever. It's like his best, greatest hits, I guess. And just a really sweet human being. So I really appreciate the time. And as mentioned, don't want to jinx it, but CC Bucko, if you haven't been introduced to her Twitter feed, it's amazing. She speaks with a Irish/Newfoundland accent. So how do you think she sounds? A Newfie Irish accent. I think she's across the pond. She's going to be coming in next week. I think next Thursday. I don't have the date right in front of me, but you can tune in to catch CC Bucko next week. And of course, we'll get some rants out to you in the next few days as well, just to fill the content. I think I've got a call out to Doug Ford. Doug, I know you have a majority government, and I respect it, and that's why I didn't go to your governance town halls. But for anyone that's watching now, I know, Doug, you're not, but to my local conservative MPP, I gotta chime in. Do not amalgamate. Do not make us three cities. You'll just make us hate each other more. You know what you can do? You can kill the region. Kill the region. It's a bloated bureaucracy that doesn't do anything but get in the way of our production as autonomous, independent communities. So the 12 of them. I'm going to get that one out soon. And I got a commission coach rant. I got to get out. It's about a minute long, and we'll get that out. The commission coach does have a channel at the commission coach on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook. Still selling real estate at teamniagara.ca. At Team Niagara on Twitter, teamniagara.ca on the interweb, obviously. That's what I've been doing for the last 25 years. But, you know, it's something that's made me incredibly passionate is the reduction, the downward pressure on listing commissions. And I just think it's irresponsible if you're a realtor in today's day and age and you're taking a listing commission and giving less than the most common rate to the selling broker, the buyer broker, the co-op that is common in the market, then you're doing a disservice to your people. And so, yeah, look for that. Before we come out with CC Bucko next week, I'm looking forward to that. At Jim Fannon, at The Jim Fannon Show, and we'll talk to you soon. And check us on YouTube. Man, we've seen some cool growth. Not substantial, but for me, substantial. YouTube's been showing some growth and a lot more activity and comments. YouTube.com/Jim Fannon is where you find it. And we will talk to you soon. Oh, don't forget, go check out rockourtown.ca for all Niagara music, 24 hours a day. It'd be awesome if you put this on at your place of business, especially if you own a business. Put it on in the background. There's no offensive language. There's no offensive genres of music. It's all kind of middle of the road. Middle of the road. Go check out rockourtown.ca and get to know your Niagara music scene. All right? I don't think there's anything else. Thank you, Zuby. Go check him out at Zuby Music, and go check out his video that he put up there, crushing the British women's deadlift record. While he, I don't think he actually copped to this in our interview, but he was identifying as a woman at the time. And so he wants to be recognized as being the record holder because although he was a man when he came on the show today, when he broke the record, he was a woman. So at realestate@teamniagara.ca if you want to send me an email. Otherwise, get a hold of me on social media. I'm out.